What's up, Heath Bar patrons? Welcome back to another episode of the Heath Bar. I'm your host, Heath Johnson. Glad to be serving up another chat on tap for you today. I've got a fun one here for you. I got to sit down and chat with Bobbie Jo Kuhl, who's a singer-songwriter up here in the Black Hills. She comes to us from Golden, Colorado a few years back. And she's also the founder and organizer and orchestrator of the Stardust Festival, which is coming up here in a couple weeks in Deadwood, South Dakota on May 11th at the Deadwood Mountain Grand. You can check out more about it at stardustfestival.com or stardustfest.com. I'm going to have all the links in the show notes for you there as well if I said that wrong. But she's a really cool person. I've known her a couple of years now. I think we decided it was around 3 years that we met. And we've had a few chats here and there, but never really got the chance to really just sit down and talk and get to know each other on this level. So I was really happy to do so. She's got a cool story, really interesting perspective on a lot of things. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed chatting with her, and I'm really glad we got to do it. Let me get this served up to you so you can listen to it right away. But please go check out her stuff. Go check out what she's doing at the festival. This is the third or fourth time she's doing it. I think it's the third year she's doing it here. She did do one in Colorado as well, but it's a fun time. A lot of cool vendors, a lot of cool music, and a lot of cool things happening. So once again, folks, thank you all for tuning in. And without further ado, give it up for Bobbie Jo Kuhl. Bobbie, welcome to the Heath Bar.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. It's been, I was trying to think how many years it's been since we've met, and it's got to be at least over 5. But
no,
I'm wrong
3.
in that aspect. Is it only 3?
I've only lived here 3 years, but it does seem a lot longer.
Okay.
It really does.
Okay.
No, it's okay. That makes me happy though.
Yeah, I've lost all track of time since 2020 anyway. I feel like it's just a whole different world, but that's common with a lot of people, I guess. So
yeah.
3 years. Let's start there. Where'd you move here from, and what brought you to the area?
I moved here from Golden, Colorado. I lived in Colorado for 21 years.
Okay.
And I lost everything that I had worked really hard for during the lockdowns. So I had a holistic wellness center that I had for 7 years, where I had a float pod, a sensory deprivation float pod. I had a metaphysical store. I rented out rooms to different practitioners. And then I also had my practice. So I was doing energy work, massage, psychic, tarot, running everything as well. And still trying to have a life. And then I had to shut my business down because you can't pay rent when you're locked down. And then the house I had been renting for 6 years, like a month after that happened, they were like, we're selling the house, and it sold in 2 weeks. So I went jobless and homeless in the course of a couple of months. And I wasn't homeless. I had places to stay and friends and family and everything, but I didn't have like a home base anymore. And I really wanted to move to South Dakota because of, to me, it just felt safer as an entrepreneur, just based on the fact that there were nothing was like mandated. And it's beautiful out here. It's the only place I'd ever been to besides Colorado that I actually could picture myself living in. But I just never thought it was possible because I was so locked down in Colorado with my business and house and everything. So I came up for the rally in 2020 in the middle of all of this, closing my business, not realizing I was about to have to move out of my house. And I was like, someday I'm going to live here. And then 2 days later, the property management people came over and are like, oh, the house is going on the market next week. And I started laughing and crying at the same time. And I'm sure I looked crazy. And I was like, well, I said I wanted to move, but this is definitely short notice. So I guess it's possible. The universe is like, get out. And it took me about
hey, we know you wanted a plan, but this is happening now.
Yeah, exactly. Ask and you shall receive. So it took 4 months for me to find a place to live out here. So I traveled around and visited friends, and actually got to go to a lot of places that were on my bucket list. So that was awesome to experience that, because I was constantly at my business, unless I was traveling for work.
Yeah.
So I moved into this woman's basement in Sturgis and lived there for a couple months, and then got a place in Spearfish, and eventually I started working at Jacob's Brew House. Like, I loved that place, and
Oh, right.
I moved out here not knowing anyone, so
Mm-hmm.
that seemed like the type of place where I'd meet people, and then that's how I met you, was
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
Scott, through the gallery. I think I was booking music there, and he gave me your
Yeah, that's
number,
right.
and we had
Yep, that's right.
connected, and then I saw you open for Dwight Yoakam, and
Oh, yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
know.
That's
So,
right.
and then Scott had me play before everyone else played at the Singer-Songwriter Festival in 2021, and you were there.
Oh, right.
And then that's
Man.
when we
Yeah,
like
this is
really
all
connected.
it's all coming back to me now. That's right. I remember that conversation. And man, I did not know this background story of you. This is pretty crazy. This is kind of intense. Like um I got married in at Red Rocks near Golden,
Oh,
Morrison and
yes.
everything like that. So that's like my wife and I, whenever we think of going on a family trip, we choose Golden. Like we love that area out there. It's kind of like we call it our second home, even though we've only been there like 5 times, but we just love it.
Yeah.
But um
We probably crossed paths. I lived like 10 minutes from Red Rocks. I used to go there and work out. And
we probably did. We
yeah,
probably did. I can't imagine. I mean, and the float tank stuff, the stuff you were all talking about are all stuff that I'm super into. I absolutely love that stuff. I wish I had one. I wish I could do it more.
I
The
miss
few
it.
times I have done it, it's been the best experiences I've ever had.
It's
Just,
so
I
beneficial. And
like,
I actually had the first one in Colorado, the first
okay. Oh, no
float
kidding.
pod, that brand. There were other float
Wow.
places, but there were only 6 places in the whole state when I got mine. And I used to
Wow.
do it all the time, and I really miss
Wow.
it. Not
Um,
doing that anymore.
I, I tell you, like, there's something about being okay with just being alone with yourself. And then on top of that, like being alone with yourself in a completely sensory deprived area, or where like there's no sound, there's no light. Like I'm one of those. I don't do the music, I don't do the lights. I just dark and silent,
I
and
didn't let
I
people do lights or
love it.
music. I'm like, you're going to be
Yeah,
alone with
nice.
yourself.
Yeah. Well, there's something about that experience of just, at the same time, it feels like I was only in there for 5 minutes, but it also feels like I was in there for an eternity, because there's no sense of time. You can't
Yeah.
find any point of reference. It's the craziest feeling ever.
The goal is to float like you're actually
Yeah.
floating.
What got you into all of that? Like, what was your interest in that? Is that just like the way you grew up, or was there a
No,
specific moment?
no, not at all. I'm looking back. I actually just had this conversation last weekend with my one of my sisters. I was always into like that movie The Craft, when like the kind of witchy aspect and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
hero and
yeah.
stuff like that. Not in a negative way, but it just intrigued me. And I lived in West Texas at the time as a teenager, and I would go visit one of my sisters in Denver, and I'd be like, "Take me to one of those stores." And so she'd take me. ISIS was like the first store. That's the name of it. But
That's cool.
so we'd go there, and it was just it. I don't know. It felt really cool. And then she got me a tarot reading from a friend when I was like 14 or 15, and I thought it was neat, but never really did anything. I wasn't raised that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward to like 26, 27 years old, I decided to go to massage therapy school. And that's where things really opened up, because the school I went to, the Colorado School of Healing Arts, they were more about the philosophy as opposed to just making money. So it was, we actually learned energy work there. It was really powerful. It changed my life and opened up so much, and taught me the importance of self-care as well. Like, we always put everybody else first. And how can you really, take care of anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself?
Sure.
So while I was in massage school, I had an epiphany one day and was like, I'm going to open one of those stores that I love, because they're all in Denver. There aren't any in Golden. And I've been around Golden since 2002. Like, I worked at Old Capitol Grill. I was around there more than anywhere else. I
Wow.
lived all over in Colorado. I've lived in Breckenridge, Lakewood, Morrison,
Okay.
Littleton, but Golden was, that was my town.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to open one of those places. I'll do massage, and just thinking that would be it. So I looked at a place for a few years actually, and just kept thinking, even after I graduated, like someday it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And that place got rented out when I finally had the money to do it.
Ugh.
And so I was really bummed and was like, but it was on 14th Street in Golden. And so I've told this story a lot before in the past. I haven't told it in a long time. So I was like, I really want the place on 14th Street. And then in 2013, I went into this beautiful Victorian style home in downtown Golden to rent a room to do massage. And it was a wellness center. And 2 weeks later, I was giving a proposal to the landlords and took it over and had started Into the Mystic Healing and Arts.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was really crazy because their lease was up. That was my dream. It was on 14th Street. Like I could see the place I originally wanted across the street.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was so powerful. And then by doing that, I had other people come in, and eventually I started realizing I got more into the psychic readings and tarot, and it was a lot easier on my body than doing massage as well. And I
Sure.
was really helping people and just had a knack for it. And I feel like it was something that I've probably known all along, but didn't recognize it. Like, I feel we all have these abilities. We're all intuitive. It's just whether or not you choose to enhance it. And that's what I did.
That's interesting. So I came out of, I don't know if you know this about me, but I came out of a background where all the stuff that you just said is like demonic and heresy.
Yes. I remember.
So,
Yeah.
like, yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like thankfully I've gotten out of all of that and everything. And I've just been able to kind of broaden my worldview a bit, but it's interesting, like hearing you talk through that, and like the way you're saying it is not the way like a lot of people I talk to and everything, that how they perceive that line of work or that belief system or whatever you want. Like intuitiveness, they agree with it. They obviously, people are intuitive, but the idea of like taking that intuitiveness and like having it grow into something where you're able to help people along their path is just not something that crosses their heads. It's like that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Do you have you encountered that? What's your response to that? Do you talk about it, or?
Oh yeah, it's been rough. Yeah,
Yeah,
it sucks for people to think you're crazy or evil. And
sure.
that's not like my goal now with all of this is to help people recognize that. Like there's so many different cultures, beliefs, religions, and I've looked into a lot of them. I was actually really into going to church on my own as a kid. I was always looking for something. I actually got grounded from going to church, which most people, yeah, I know. It's so funny to tell that story. There was, I lived in Levelland, Texas, and there was a bus that would pick us up for Sunday school. And my dad wasn't into church, and like, he knew we were happy. And so it was something he could like take away as like a punishment, you know?
Oh, okay.
You're not going to go to church.
You enjoyed it.
And I was like, who gets grounded from going to church? Usually it's the other way around.
That's funny.
Yeah, I went to all like so many different churches just learning. And I realized that everything ultimately comes back to love. And I started I had a lot of fear through some of the churches that I went to, like beating myself up, constantly feeling like I'm not worthy. And it just always left me like in a state of like, just discontent. Like I wasn't content. I didn't feel right. I didn't believe in myself. And then as I got older, I kind of branched away from that. And once I was in massage school, actually, I started just realizing like, I feel as long as I'm a good person and I'm doing the best that I can do with myself, then I can also do that to help others and lead by example, and that I don't have to live in that fear. And that's when I started studying all different types of religions. And that's when I realized that the majority of them do come back to love. Like we want to be loved, but there's also the fear of being loved. And it's also like, don't be shitty.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
when you look at the commandments, when you look at like, I mean, there's so many different things. It's just, it seems like common sense, but common sense isn't common to everybody. So it's more oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I've always looked at it as like, there's a lot of it that's common sense. It's when that common sense gets put behind like a gate with gatekeepers who like to
Yes.
control and maintain power. That's when it becomes a problem. I
Exactly.
mean, I went to college for it. I was a preacher in Iowa for 3+ years, and like it was my thing. That's what I was going to go and do. And man, I tell you what, like recently in past couple of years, I've spent a lot of time just kind of rethinking through a lot of that. Like what was that, because it was a big part of who I was as a person, and then that all just blew up. And but like what you said, where a lot of it comes back to love. Like that's one of the things that I've come to see. Like there's certain things that I was taught that weren't emphasized the way they should have been, because again, the fear and the guilt, that's a huge part of at least what I came out of,
Yeah.
um but in my own, like just reading and thinking through things, like it all comes back to love. I've been doing a lot of I don't know if you've looked into any of like the Christian mysticism traditions or anything like that, like the monks and the people from, and it's like a long standing tradition, and it's far more beautiful than the believe the right things, follow the right doctrine. Like it's like this
Burning in
pathway
hell.
to connecting directly with the divine, is kind of how I
Yes.
see it. And it's been completely eye-opening for me, just in terms of my own personal journey and everything like that. But it also has, it's led me to, like, people like you who have, um, like I said, what I was taught was these heretical and demonic ways of viewing the world. It's like, well, not really. Like it's kind of the same thing, just in a different language in a lot of aspects,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's so much, and I realize that more and more. I was just having this conversation the other day too. Like, there's a lot of things that have been taken. Like people will like grab a Bible and just flip to a page and then feel, that's what they're supposed to
Yeah.
read that day.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what I do with tarot cards, and that's
Oh
exactly
yeah.
like
Oh, I hadn't thought of
it's
that.
another tool of divination. And I actually used to do that as a kid. I used to just flip open the
Hmm.
Bible and feel like that was a message. And there's a really good book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. I do that with that book as well. But like lighting candles, prayer. I
Yeah.
pray. I just don't pray in a way to like specifically, I guess, to God. I kind of changed it to calling it the universe. I know
Me
there's
too.
something else. Huh?
Yeah.
You too?
Me too. Me too.
Well, I know there's
Yeah.
something
Well,
else, and I've
yeah.
also done past life regressions, and I've seen some shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting to me. That changed my like I learned my soul mission, and my purpose of coming
Huh.
here. I saw where I was coming from, not fully, but like enough. It was almost like if I went too far, I'm not going to be any good here. Like I still have to be here.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
know
It's
too much about that stuff, then you just can't be here. I had a friend who called it, what did she say? It was like too spiritually minded to be any earthly good.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah, it's
And
like just get the cliff notes and then move on. You know what I
and
mean?
and something
Like,
to because I was going back and forth because I had my business and I believe in all of this stuff. And I actually, me and my younger sister Billy, I used to do this thing when I was like 12 years old. We did a lot of road trips, and I actually used to live in Iowa too. I'm from Nebraska, but we moved around, and so
oh,
we traveled a lot to see family. We always had big conversion vans, and me and my sister
okay.
would sit in the back, and I would like hold her hands and do this, and then I'd start talking, but like with different accents. Like I don't know.
Huh.
I vaguely remembered it a few years ago, and I asked her. I was like, "Do you remember me doing that?" Because she loved it. She was 4 years younger than me, and
Sure.
she'd always beg me to do it, and I'd get annoyed, like my little sister, like, "God, no, leave me alone. Stop. I don't want to do it."
Yeah.
And then sometimes I would, and she goes, "Yeah, you used to say you were calling in the gods," and I was like,
Interesting.
"What?" I don't remember saying that, but I said gods, plural,
Yeah.
and we weren't raised that way. I mean, a lot of people in my family were religious, but like my dad refused to let me get baptized until I was 18. I wanted to
Hmm.
be baptized, everything. Every time I went to church, I'd come home and be like, I need to be saved. I got to get baptized. And he's like,
Yeah.
you're very easily influenced. Once you're 18, you can make your own decision. And now I
Smart guy.
I respect that. Actually,
Yeah.
I hated it then because I wanted to
Of
be,
course. Yeah.
I felt like I was missing out or I was going to burn in hell or something. And,
Right.
so we weren't raised that way. And then my sister says that she remembers it too. And then eventually I started channeling and doing all these different things that coincide with that. And so I feel like it's just always been there, that I've always done it. And it's like I needed to remember. So that's why I was constantly seeking other things, because I needed to learn about everything. Because a lot of religions, it's just like one view, that's the way it is. And to me, that's limiting. And
Yeah.
I feel that we can accomplish so much more if we really believe in ourselves and believe that there's more to this, which comes in with Stardust Fest. And the reason why I call the event Stardust Fest, I had read several years ago that we're 93% Stardust, and then I've also read 97% Stardust. And just thinking of that, it's like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. And maybe that's why we're so drawn to the stars. Most people always look at the sky like you're just in awe. But then there's also a lot of distractions in bigger cities. You just don't see it anymore. So then you become disconnected. And in 2022, I was planning Stardust Fest, and Jessica, actually, who owns Mystic Market, she showed me an article where this woman, her father had passed away, and she looked at his ashes under a high-powered microscope, and they looked just like stardust, like
No kidding.
beautiful colors. But when you look at shooting stars, yellow is iron, green is magnesium, red is like nitrogen hydrogen blend. Like, so if we're made up of that too, of course we're going to have those colors.
Yeah.
And then like 2 weeks later, my father passed away while I was planning the first Stardust Fest. And so by learning this, that really actually helped me a lot with his passing. I do have his stardust, is what I call it, his ashes. Eventually you can pay to get a picture done. It's pretty pricey, because those microscopes are like $1 million microscopes.
I'd imagine.
But I want to do that. And so it was just more confirmation. And while he was actually passing away, I was in the hospital while everything was happening. I drove from South Dakota to Lubbock, Texas, and he flatlined about 10 minutes after I got there. And so it was like he waited, and my other sisters were there because they live in Texas. And I was wearing a Galaxy shirt, and something in my head was like, go hug your sister. I have several sisters, but I went to hug one of them. And I closed my eyes and hugged her, and I heard my dad say, meanwhile, he's like, they're doing the defibrillator, like all of that stuff. Everything's going on. It's crazy. And I hear him say, you're right. We are all stars. And right then I opened my eyes, and the picture on the wall said all stars. And it was in the ICU unit. So that was just like, ICU all stars, the people who work there. But that's what I saw. Something told me to go hug my sister. I did. I hear my dad's voice. And then all of that transpired. And he didn't believe in what I did either. So
wow.
He was, but at that moment, it was just confirmation for me. And but he did love me playing music and singing and performing. And so it was more confirmation to continue to do Stardust Fest. A lot of people thought I wasn't going to because of that, but I knew I had to keep it going, and the show must go on. And it did, and it's been awesome. So it has even more meaning and power, and just, sorry, I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
no, you're good. I'm glad you did. And I'm glad you kept it going too. Because, hearing you talk through that, it's kind of funny to me. Funny is not the right word. So I grew up very, very similar story from like the other side of the aisle. Like I had mystical encounters at the age of 5 where I like dropped, couldn't take a step forward. My whole body started tingling and I was shaking. And I turned to my dad at the time and I'm like, Dad, I want to get saved. This is all I knew at the time, and I'm just weeping and bawling. And I was playing with my brother and sister. So I wasn't even like thinking about any of this, it just kind of boom. I like hit a wall and I couldn't move. And, so we prayed the prayer that they taught us all to pray in the 80s, and I got done. I went back to playing like nothing happened, and you flash forward about 10, 12 years, same thing happens again, where I'm like just tingling, can't breathe, but I'm like covered in this feeling of peace and everything like that. And when my grandfather died, I was in high school, and we were all in the house with him. And right before he passed, I was sitting in our chair when I was little that I would sit on his lap and he would rock me in. And I don't think I fell asleep, but I was in his lap as he was rocking me and talking with me. And, we had a conversation. And then as soon as like my eyes opened, I saw him breathe his last breath. And it's like,
Wow.
what do you do with that?
Yes.
So like all these things were happening like that are like, were easily dismissed by, the upbringing I had, not from my parents, but from just the church experience and everything that I had going up. But I had all these different things that were like, where does this fit?
Yes.
And which I think always kept me open and kept me searching, even when I was in college and was super closed-minded. Like that's something that happened. I went to Bible college, and so they teach you the correct doctrine and theology, and I learned a lot from it. Like I definitely am glad that I did it, but even past that and in that, like I was always open to more than just this very narrow view of things.
Well, and if you
And
look too, you were getting, like, I know it talks about it in the Bible of people receiving messages from God.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
channeling.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
there's so many different
yeah.
ways that people have described it and worded it, but it's all, I mean, like I said, it's the same thing in different languages.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of negative things that comes out of institutionalized and systemized religion that I'm not a fan of.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of negative things that can happen out of the independent spiritual pursuers and everything like that, which I kind of consider myself to be more of. So, I mean, there's been a lot of crazy cults that have started out of people that don't fall into a system, So I see there's got to be a balance in there somewhere.
Yes.
And I think the more and more people that just search for that depth of understanding, and like I like the phrase God is as ground of being, so that which all things spring from, and that to me has just been really just a lifesaver in terms of me, like, what the hell what am I here for? Like, what was the first 20 years of my life where I spent in this world? What was the point of it?
Yeah.
But then, then I meet you, and I've met several other people, and but you're the first one that's actually put on an event that's like, hey, this is in a lot of ways a very spiritually minded event that doesn't, I mean, those kind of events don't really happen. I mean, used to have the Passion play that happened in Spearfish years ago. That's shut down. But then they also have, I forget what it's called, the Hills Alive. Hills Alive event in Rapid, and that's a very evangelical minded, exactly the culture I came out of, so you've got that, and then you've got what you're doing, and it's just, I don't know, like it's it makes me happy that there's people that are willing to be open and have conversations and discussions, and I'm happy to see that it's been growing too. I mean, have I been to all of them so far? Like I've played at both of them. Yeah,
I did. I had one in Golden in
okay
in 2022. Yeah, that was a lot smaller, but yeah. So you've been to all the Deadwood ones.
All the ones up here in Deadwood, yeah. Yeah. So talk me through just, there's your history, there's your background, but with this event, what has been the drive and the desire to build something like this up here in the hills? Obviously, this is where you're located, but like, what do you see the value of it as far as the community around here in the area?
As the community here?
Just the community around the Black Hills and having something like this that's available. Yeah.
I feel like I've been so welcomed and supported, and which to me is so amazing because I didn't know anybody here when I moved here.
Yeah.
So to have that many people come out and be interested and intrigued and want to support all the music. That's why I'm doing so many different things, because it's not like just like a psychic fair. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just a vendor fair. It's not just a concert. It's a way to bring everybody together, because every single person in the world could relate to something there.
Yeah.
And then you realize how connected that we are, and so that's bringing more unity. And people are just happy in that type of environment. So to me, I feel that's my most favorite thing, is bringing everybody together to raise that vibration and that energy. Because when you leave there, you feel inspired, you feel happy, you're like, that was fun. You tell other people, they tell other people, and that's
Yeah.
how it keeps spreading. And then you want to start doing more of that. And there's a lot of things like that going on. So it's seeking it out, because I mean, it's like a high to feel happy.
Yeah.
And the happier we are, I feel that's the greatest gift we can give to humanity, is to be a whole person. And I know we can't be happy all the time, and there's sadness and pain, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just, we're here for polarity too. We have to have that balance, the light and the
Yeah.
dark. But ultimately, what are you feeding? And so if we keep feeding ourselves with that positivity, it's contagious. And that's, I feel, the best way we can make a difference in helping others to feel that way. And so the Black
Yeah.
Hills feels just, the energy out here is amazing. There's something about it. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reason why people are drawn here. And it's like, you've got these like root systems with all of the awesome trees and the caves, and it feels like it's just helping it kind of spread out even more into
Mm-hmm.
the planet.
Yeah, there's a certain, that's one of the things that I think I've loved the most about um, these different perspectives and different things, is the callback to being connected with nature. In a lot of ways, to me, it feels like a callback to being connected with reality too,
Yes.
of just recognizing, what's in front of you and your place in it. One of my favorite philosophers is Alan Watts, and he talks a lot about that light and dark. And he uses the yin and the yang, and he talks about how, like, you think it's like each fish is trying to like eat each other. He's like, but when you actually look at it, it's a dance. Like they're dancing, so you've got to keep that light and dark balance, and you've got to recognize that there's a certain aspect of us we're capable of incredible things, but if we lose sight of where we're at in the world in terms of our connectedness to nature and to everything, like things get out of whack pretty quick.
Yes.
Like we are powerful, but like the earth is the earth. What are you going to do?
Totally. That's why there's more chaos in cities,
Oh
especially
yeah,
downtown
absolutely.
cities. It's cement
Yeah.
jungles. But if you look, like when places are abandoned or out of business, life always still comes through. Like plants
Mm-hmm.
will crack through the cement and still keep
Yeah.
growing, and it'll take over.
Yeah, and there's an aspect too, like, you mentioned that with cities, like just there's a short-sightedness that can easily happen if you don't see the stars, you don't see trees, you don't see grass. I mean, you do, but it's not the same, and then everyone that leaves it, like I grew up in a town of 100 people in western Nebraska, so it was awesome. I went to college in Omaha, and I was there for about 8 years, and I'll never move back to a city. Like there's just no way,
Yeah,
especially like you said, the Black Hills, there's something special about this place. And a lot of it has to do with just what it is and what it's been throughout history. I love learning about the Lakota culture up here, and just how they lived and what they did, and especially what the Black Hills mean to them. It's gut wrenching when you're on this side of the story, right? But if you're looking backwards and
yeah.
you're realizing like how powerful and important this place is and was to them, it kind of brings it back in a little bit of like, man, this is really sacred ground,
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. And I actually, so Stardust Fest also came about, which I planned on talking about this at the actual event, because there's some full circle stuff going on with all of this
Yeah.
too. So I met some people when I had my business in Colorado who were doing the Star Knowledge. It's called the Star Knowledge Conference. It started in 1996. And they had the first one in Wagner, South Dakota. And it has to do with the symbols that they found on the Roswell crash. But it's, it's really fascinating. It's like a whole, I've been writing a book for a while. But so that's what it started off of. But they had like people from the CIA, FBI, different speakers, people all over the world that used to come to these. And they were having one in Colorado at that time in 2015. And that I had wanted to do public speaking for a while. I felt that that was something I was supposed to do. And so that was my first opportunity to do that. And so the person who started it is Lauren Zephyr. He's Lakota. He's a Chief Golden Light Eagle. He was Chief Standing Elk. So he's been on Ancient Aliens. And he's from like Greenwood, South Dakota. So Marty, Wagner, that whole area. And has a very large family. So it just so I'll get to that point. So I started going to these events. I became one of the MCs. I MC'd 5 of the events, and I ended up traveling with Lauren for about 9 months throughout the United States. And he taught me a lot about Lakota culture. And we did a ton of sweat lodges, and we did a lot of ceremony for
that's cool.
The planet, which I've realized now the planet's going to be fine. It's the people.
Right.
Like, like what you were saying,
like,
the earth is going to be
nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was more about like trying to find ways of using prayer and positive energy, and especially power in numbers, to have people maybe open their hearts more and be more compassionate. But then I don't know, it's still learning about the polarity and the balance. So I learned a lot with that. And he wrote some books called, there's the 11:11, the 12:12, and the 13:13. And the 11:11 coincides with the new moon and full moon cycles. The 12:12, which I ended up teaching, coincides. As I'm saying this, I'm pretty sure I had a dream about this last night. That had to do with the solstices and equinoxes. And then the 13:13 has to do with the quarter moons. And so when you were talking about the dance and the yin and yang, we look at, we only see the moon because of the sun. It's that dance. Between that and all of the celestial events. And when you look at all the sacred sites in the world, they're all in alignment with constellations, equinoxes, solstices, full moons, new moons, the sun. Like it all comes together. So I learned a lot of that, and started playing music. Actually, he pushed me to write my first song ever.
That's how it happened.
Yes.
Okay.
And
all right.
I was totally happy with singing other people's songs. I loved karaoke. I like to play, just play songs. Janis Joplin's my jam. Or, well, me and Bobby McGee. It's Chris Christopherson. But so I love singing. And we watched this documentary about Journey and the Arnell guy who took over singing for them. And he was like, one day he goes, "You remind me of Adele." And I'm like, "Wow, Adele. I don't think I sound like her, but thanks." And he's like,
right, of course.
He's like, "Always singing someone else's songs." And I was like, "Oh, you mean Arnell?" And he was like, "Yeah, Arnell." And I was like, "Oh my gosh. Okay, fine. I'm going to write a freaking song." I just saw
That's funny.
Actually.
Was it awesome?
Yeah, it was. It was great. Yeah, it was super great. Cool. And Toto was phenomenal. So I wrote my first song, and he would play the music, and we would travel throughout the United States for these events. And there were always musicians there, and we would just all get together, practice for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then we would go play. And it was as if we had been a band forever. And we all played together so well. It was so much fun. And then I started writing more songs, and eventually I wasn't hanging out in that circle anymore. And I had to learn how to play the guitar to play my songs, because I had written all these songs and was like, "Oh, how am I going to do this?"
Okay.
So he ended up passing away in 2022 or 21. Oh, sorry for whoever's listening. It's one of those years. Well, my dad was 2022, so he passed away in 2021 then. And I was with him when I came up with the name Stardust Fest, and I looked up the domain name and it was available, and he's like, buy it. And I did in 2018, and then eventually had one in 2022.
Oh, cool.
And so this year I got Indigenous I booked Indigenous, and that's his nephew. That's his like family's band.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So
that is a full circle. You're not kidding.
No, and then now his daughter is coming, and she's going to be selling the books that he wrote.
Oh,
too.
cool.
So, and I feel, because I kind of went through, you know, people go through changes, and went through a lot of things with that. And I feel now I'm extremely grateful for all of this, because none of this would have happened if it wouldn't have been for that. And you look back on life and how every single thing led you to the point where you're at right now. And I'm just extremely grateful. And I feel there's a lot of help from like him, my dad, you know, all these energies behind the scenes.
Yeah.
To continue to keep growing this and to help other people. My ultimate goal is to play at Red Rocks. I want a Stardust Fest at Red Rocks.
That would be amazing. That would be really, really cool. It'd be the perfect place for it too. Well, I mean, and you think about it, like one of my favorite stories from the Bible is the story of the mustard seed. You know, the kingdom of God is like a mustard seed. It starts small, you plant it, seeds die, and then they just slowly start to grow and they become super, super big. And it's the same kind of, that's a metaphor for anything that we do in life. Like we do something 2018 or something like that. You buy a website domain, you know, and you're hanging out with this crew and you're just playing music, kind of doing your thing. And then like that just evolves and grows into now it's a festival in Deadwood, you know, and it's just, if people like can stay focused and keep nurturing things like a garden, you know, I mean, you never know what can happen and what can come out of it. I mean, I think about that with myself, like just how many different things that I do and that I like to do. And it's like, some of it feels like it's chaotic and all over the place, but it's like at some point, maybe one of these seeds is going to take root, you know, and something could grow and you never know, you know?
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the things I think that I really liked just the past couple of years at Stardust Festival is, you know, meeting the different vendors and talking with a few of the people is just, there's these universal understandings that everyone kind of has on how things work. I think a lot of it is just they don't realize that they're saying the same thing, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, because they're not going outside of branching out to even listen to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. They get, we get locked in, we get stuck, we get, you know, uncomfortable or whatever the word is you want to use. I mean, it's all, you know, the story with the mustard seed that I just said, you know, that is a pretty universal metaphor for anything in life. Like every startup company in the tech world you can use the same metaphor there, right? It's nothing to do with the Bible. It's you're starting a business. Yeah. But you're starting small, then you let it grow, you know, versus, you know, everything like that. It all kind of, there's only so many like core things in the world that are like, these are the universal truths that are there. And that's kind of where I have spent a lot of my time trying to like just discover and focus in on how to grow just myself as a person. Is like, what are the things that like have been here since before the ancients were here? You know, you look at these ancient texts and these ancient things that we've had that have survived for thousands plus years. Like they survived for a reason. I think we've misunderstood most of it, but they're still here, and there's probably a better way to look at it that can still be applicable because they're universal, you know?
Yes. Well, in those books I was talking about, that's what they're, the 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13. It's the universal and spiritual laws.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And it's interpretations and stuff too, you know, like there's just so many things out there. And when you look at like in Egypt, the libraries in Alexandria were burned. I just went to Chichen Itza in Mexico, and a lot of their documents were burned. And so there's still a lot of things that are hearsay as well. So it's like we're all kind of putting everything together.
Yeah, and what have we forgotten over time? Because things were burned and disappeared, and someone wanted to maintain control, so we got to get rid of this, you know? And there's so many different things, you know, and we're like plopped into our time and space with what we think is, oh, this is how the world is. It's like, this is a very small part of how the world has been and it will be in the future, you know. And to
Exactly.
think that we have it figured out is pretty arrogant.
Yes,
You know?
I trust and love knowing that I won't know everything, but I also
Well,
know I'm
and like,
here to learn.
yeah, well, and you get the, you know, people write books, people write their perspectives, and each perspective is, you know, bring this back a little bit to songwriting, but it's like a song, you know, you're sharing your experience, your understanding of something. And if it resonates with people, great. If it doesn't, okay, it doesn't negate your experience in any way, shape, or form. You
Yeah.
know, it's everyone's, if they want to be, everyone can be unique. I think there's a lot of people that like to just copy and paste and cookie cutter in society these days because, you know, it's just easier than thinking for yourself.
Yes.
But we all have the potential, I'd say, to be our own self if we really wanted to be.
Yes.
So,
The
yeah.
majority of my songs are about that, like
Yeah.
what you were just saying. And the first open mic I ever played, I told myself when I learned 3 songs on the guitar, I have to go play an open mic.
That's a
And
good goal. That's a good,
yeah, well,
yeah.
one popped up and I was super freaking nervous. And I went and did it. So glad I did it at a place in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. And it's funny because I had 3 songs. One song's kind of like a love song. Like I kind of took it from different experiences in my life, but then
Mm-hmm.
also kind of turned it inward. I don't know how to, you'd have to hear it. But the other 2 songs are definitely not about an actual like relationship or anything like that. So I played these 3 songs, and this lady comes up to me afterwards and was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. That breakup must have been so hard, but those songs were great." And I was like, "What?" Like, okay, well, that's just
Okay.
how she heard it. All right,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
glad it spoke to you, but yeah, that's funny. That's not what it was
Well, I
about
mean,
at
that's a
all.
great example of even the intent of the writer. It changes from the perception of the listener, you know,
Yes.
like everything. I don't know. I just think there's bigger perspectives that demand our attention and, you know, having, which is, I think what's allowed me to kind of just expand a bit and understand that, you know, for curiosity's sake, you know, let's explore. Let's see what's out
Yeah.
there. You know, let's see where things can go, and let's see what I don't know yet. Because I'm only 40. There's a lot I don't know. You know.
Yeah. Well, and I feel my grandfather, he's actually from South Dakota, Madison, South Dakota. So I tell people I have roots here, but he's
Nice.
in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's where I was born. And
Okay.
he had 12 kids, and he'll be 102 in September.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I bet he's got some stories.
oh my gosh,
Jeez.
yes, definitely. He was a celestial navigator in World War II. So he had to use
What?
stars to fly the planes. Yeah.
I didn't. Oh my
It's
God.
so
That's
cool.
cool.
It's such a, he's getting down now because he's just getting older and weaker, but he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
super freaking sharp. And he still is. He still really is. But it's just
Stars have just
hilarious.
been a part of your family. It's just
I
a
know.
thing.
Well, and so he talks, that's one of the stories that he's like stuck on that he talks about. He's got a few that he'll
Wow.
repeat, but that's the one where I'm like, wait, did you just say celestial like navigator?
Wow.
Because I don't remember him talking about that when I was younger, but he's really into music and plays all different types of instruments, and he was the musical influence on all of us. And he played at the Aging Senior Center in Lincoln, Nebraska every Monday for 30 years. Um, they did an article about him when he was like 94 or 95 in the Lincoln Star, I think is what it's called, or Lincoln Journal or
Perfect.
something.
That's perfect.
But yeah, it's like music keeps him young. So he loved
Yeah.
doing that. He was an optometrist, so he was all about vision. And
Wow.
I did an interview with him, I think when he was like 90. And I asked him like at the end of the interview, I was like, do you believe in like UFOs or anything like that? And he looked at me like he was like, you can't tell me that we're the only ones in this existence.
Yeah.
And he's like, we are
Yeah.
a speck of a speck of a speck. And he's
Yeah.
like, I would be naive to believe that we're the only ones. And he was like Roman Catholic, raised the kids Roman Catholic.
Hmm.
I eventually saw
Interesting.
like other Bibles on after my grandmother passed away, like in the kitchen. Like he was constantly learning. You never saw him watch TV. He was just always reading, always learning, doing
Oh,
stuff
that's
on the
cool.
computer. And but he was totally open to it. And then he told me some stories that he saw some things flying in the sky that he was like, that's not our technology. But he was so
Oh
interested, like he
man.
wanted to talk more about it and keep
Yeah.
learning. And I took him to a metaphysical store in Lincoln and was like, "This is what I do, Grandpa." And they had like crystal singing bowls because I teach meditations. I do use those, but he was fascinated with those. He loved the crystals and everything. And he looked at me and he goes, "You taught me how to see." He goes, "I'm the optometrist, but you taught me how to
Wow.
see." And I
That's cool.
realized he meant just a different perspective that he
Yeah.
didn't even know existed until he was in his 90s.
Yeah.
But he was open to it and just open to learning. And I forgot what my point was with that. But
Doesn't matter. That's a great story.
thanks.
It
I
doesn't
wrote a
have to
song
be a
about him.
point.
I have a
That's
song
cool.
that I wrote about him for his 100th birthday. But oh, I think it was maybe being open to seeing
I mean,
everything.
lifelong learning. I'm a huge proponent of that. Like I try to learn something new every day. I mean, I've said it just I don't know what happened to me. Like I thought everything was figured out when I was in my young life, and then my 20s happened, and my 20s like were a shit show. Like everything in my life blew up. A whole different person now. And then like I tell my wife this, and like my 30s were kind of like rebuilding a brand new foundation to build anything on. It was just like,
Yeah.
who am I? What am I doing now? And there was a lot of like tension and struggle, and it was good, but it was like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I remember being 12 and being like pulled aside at a rodeo from a guy who was selling Bibles there and telling me, "Hey, God's going to use you for great things." And I'm 12. I'm like, "Who are you? What is happening right now?"
Yeah.
And then none of that happened. And like, so I'm like, "Okay, who am I?" Right. And then like late in my 30s and now into my early 40s, like it was just this sense of just go learn stuff, like learn things, grow as much as you can, and like, turning 90 and still like finding something new, like that,
Yes.
that's like the dream. That's the goal, like that's
Yeah.
fantastic,
Yeah.
and it's something that, unfortunately a lot of people don't do. They get settled in and life gets in the way, and before you know it, 50 years have gone by, and
Yes.
you're kind of stuck in your ways, and that's just that's my biggest nightmare, I think, is that I'll like have made a decision in my 20s and this is what I believe, and then
Yeah.
never rethink it.
No, totally. That's what I said when I graduated massage school. It was like, this is what I'm going to do. I will do massage forever. Not
Right.
knowing that I would be eventually putting on a
Right.
music festival.
Putting on festivals and just rocking it.
Yeah.
I love that you have a original songs moment there, because like for in the songwriters rounds that we do, I mean, that's been a thing that's been near and dear to me for quite a while now. That's one thing I never thought I'd ever be doing, like writing songs and playing in pubs and bars and performing. Like you meant opening for Dwight Yoakam. Never saw that in my future. Whatever, no way. But hey, it's a cool thing to put on your cap. But what I find myself recently, since last fall, with rethinking through a lot of this stuff and trying to like find some clarity in my own journey, in my own life, is a lot of my songwriting has started to be about this stuff. And it's no longer about like trying to find a song that is fun to play at a bar, or like, heartbreak, like the typical stuff that Americana country artists write. Like a lot of my stuff now is that I'm writing is a lot to do with my spiritual journey, which I'm excited for something like this, because I can actually play it and there's going to be people
Yes.
listening, not like
Oh,
hanging out, not paying attention. So I'm looking forward to getting to finally debut some of these songs that the words are what's important, and I want
yeah.
people to pay attention to and listen to. So Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Very, very
I'm
much
so
so.
excited. That's even more
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you so it's May 11th.
Yes.
Yes, May 11th at the Deadwood Mountain Grand again. And um shoot the times out for me. I don't have them in front of me right
No,
now.
that's okay. It's 12:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. So
Okay.
I'll have so the vendors are going to be starting at 12:30, and then I'll probably play some crystal singing bowls, just kind of have some meditation music on until 2 p.m. And then Sultry Shimmy will be doing their belly dancing performance, which they've done the last couple of years. And it's so
Oh, cool.
awesome. They dance with swords. Oh my gosh, it's so many people, actually a lot of people who say they went to Stardust Fest. That's one of their like favorite things is seeing the belly dancing performance. And I'm so
Sweet. I
grateful.
think I might have missed that. I'm gonna have to try to make it there for
You
that.
got to
That'd be
make
cool.
it. Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So that's at 2 p.m. And then the first singer-songwriter round is going to be around 3:30 to 4:30, and then we'll have one. You and I will be in the same round, so that'll be from like 4:30 to 5:30, and then I'm having all of us sing a song together, all
Yeah.
of the singer-songwriters. So that'll be a surprise, and then it'll get set up for Indigenous, and they'll play for about 90 minutes, and then Camp Comfort is the headliner, and so
Sweet.
they'll play afterwards. So everything's kind of tentative with the issues. But
Yeah.
I'm
I mean, that's
hoping
how
for
it
all the
works.
singer songwriters to be able to play about 4 songs a piece.
Sweet.
And yeah, and just I'm super, super excited for that.
How do
So
you
sorry.
go ahead?
No,
Oh,
no,
you
no. What were you
finish.
gonna say?
I was saying, how do you find all the vendors? Because I mean, there's a lot, and
Yeah.
they just come out of the woodwork, or where do you find them all?
Well, it's interesting because most of them are like, "Oh, I want to do it again next year." And unfortunately, when I send out emails, it goes to a lot of people's spam. I think because it's a large email, I guess.
Oh, sure.
So I have a lot of returning vendors, but I've got a lot of new vendors too, and each one has been the same. Where it's like, I mean, well, obviously the first one was different,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I've got some people who weren't here for the last one that were here for the first one. So I start advertising on social media, just on Facebook and vendor events, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, and then people see it. I've got people coming from Chadron, Nebraska, that are going to be vendors, and
Wow. Is it
Gerard,
mostly regional, like
Wyoming.
area?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
I think I had someone from Colorado last year, just through like friends of friends. But people see the Stardust Fest website, I guess, and then reach out to me too
Yeah.
about vending. And I mean, I set intentions before I do all of this of what I hope to happen and what I'm manifesting and the energy that I want and the energy of the vendors that come in, of people who are there to be in the moment and have a good time and not get into drama and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just really enjoy themselves. Yeah, and it's, I mean, when you
That's
bring that
cool.
many people together, because my goal is to have 50 vendors. I had about 40 the last couple of times or close to
Okay.
that. It's it's a lot of different energies, and I'm running everything myself. So
Yeah.
like
Do you have a
handling,
team with you, or is it really just you?
it's me.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, I have my son. I forced my son to help. He's 16.
Here's your chore list today.
Yeah, so he'll be helping with working the
That's
door,
cool.
like tickets and stuff. And so me,
Okay.
him, my mom, and my sister are coming, and so they've helped out the last couple of years. But I try to make it where everybody gets to go hang out. So I guess I do have a
Sure.
team, but
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
have like a designated team. But I have a lot of people who have volunteered,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really worked out. I would like to have a little bit more this time so I can. Um, I don't know. I don't want to say like enjoy because I do enjoy it, but I feel like it just
Mm-hmm.
goes by so fast. And I'm constantly going and checking in with everybody
Yeah.
that I'm like, wait, this happened? Oh, that happened. And then it's like, oh, it's time to sing. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll do this. But that was
That's the curse of
originally,
being the organizer.
well, and originally the reason why I wanted to do this as well is because I'm good at planning events. I've always had awesome parties. And I love bringing people together. That's like, oh my gosh, that's one of my most favorite things in the world to do. I love
That's
like
cool.
seeing how complete opposites can just totally get along. And
Yeah.
usually in a
Yeah.
setting like that, you just will. You just will. That's how the energy is. And I wanted to play music. And so I thought, what better way to play your own songs and have your own music festival?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Man, you've got me excited all over again for this
Good.
event. I'm pumped for it. Yeah, I'm one of those people too who, like, my head just runs crazy with ideas, and not every idea do I ever have time to, like, come to fruition. But
Oh yeah,
there's a few things popping in my head we maybe should chat about for some future years, because
definitely.
this is a cool event. I really hope it keeps going, and I really hope that it just keeps growing and that people get to experience it. You know, my mom, she heard about it last year, and I'm sure she's going to listen to this and be like, I'm going to be up here for that weekend.
And it's Mother's
she
Day
didn't get to
weekend,
come.
so she should come.
It is Mother's Day
She gets
weekend.
him for
It'd be
free.
perfect.
Your mom gets
It'd
him
be
for
perfect.
free. Your
Well,
mom. Sorry, not everybody else's mom, but
that'll settle it. She's going to be up here anyway. I might as well just have her stay a few extra days and rock it out. So that'd be pretty cool.
Perfect.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, Bobbie Jo, tell everyone where they can find info on the event and info about you. And you got any gigs or music coming up anytime soon, or is it? Yeah, sweet.
Me and Jace Marciando are playing tomorrow night at Diamond Lil's from 8:30 to 11:30. That's
Nice.
in the Midnight Star, and we're also playing there next Saturday as well. I know I've got something coming up at Shipwrecks too. I'm doing psychic and tarot readings and teaching meditations at Mystic Market in downtown Rapid City. StardustFest.com is the website for tickets. You get a discount on tickets if you purchase them in advance online, and then I have a different price at the door. But I use Ticket Fairy, which is freaking awesome site. They only charge, it's $2 per ticket. That's it. So you don't have to worry about
sweet.
a lot of other fees. It's cut and dry. They're just great company. I highly recommend anyone doing event promoting to use them. And then my personal website is Bobbie Jo Kuhl, BOBBIEJOKUHL.com. You can get in touch with me if you want to do psychic readings, energy work. I do meditations at people's houses. I can come over for parties. I do lots of different things. And what else do? I do once a month. Oh, next Sunday I have a sound bath meditation at Soul Yoga. Not next, did I say next month? Next week, the 28th. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I use 7 crystal singing bowls and 2 Atlantis gongs, and you just lay there and relax and let the sound wash over you like a sound bath. So I call it the celestial sound bath.
Man, I have a lot to learn. That sounds really cool. That sounds really cool. I have a YouTube video of a guy with a big sound bowl, and he just sound. And I have a book that I read. It has like a meditation thing every morning, and I read that, and then I'll kick that on and just kind of sit there with my eyes closed. But like, to be bathed in it like that sounds interesting. I might have to make that a trip.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
That'd be
It's
cool.
so awesome. It's 90 minutes. I play for close to an hour, and then it takes people a while to come back into reality. But I've been doing
this
that
on
for
Sundays?
7 years. That will be next Sunday. I do once a month at Soul Yoga. So Sunday, the 28th. The 28th.
28th, yeah. I'm gonna be gone.
Well, I do more. You
But
can just have a party at your house, and I'll bring it all over, and you can have it.
There you go. That'd be really cool. That'd be really cool.
It works for the kids too. Kids love it.
Oh, I bet they sleep great.
Oh my gosh, totally. I'll like force my son to do it. He's into heavy metal, so I'll be like, "Come to this sound bath," and he's like, "I don't want to." And then he does it, and he's like, "I feel really relaxed." Afterwards.
Yeah, that was kind of the point. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Bobbie Jo, this was awesome. I learned way more about you than I anticipated, and just the history and the background of where you came from. It's been super cool. I can't wait to like bump into you and like hang out and have a few beers and talk some more, because
I would love that. Yeah,
this is really cool. I'm excited about the event. I'm excited about what you're doing up here, and I'm glad you moved to the area.
Thank you.
Even though the circumstances getting you up here weren't exactly the best,
it was a blessing in disguise.
It worked out.
I do say that. I totally believe that was a huge blessing in disguise. I love it here, and I'm grateful that all of that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Yeah.
Well, with that, thanks so much for hanging out here with me, and we will see you very, very soon.
Yay. See you soon. Thanks again. I appreciate it.